The pool was silent, save for the faint ripple of water lapping against the tiles, but my heart thundered like a storm. I stood there, shivering in my swimsuit, staring into Coach Riley's blue eyes as she leaned closer, her breath warm against the cool evening air. In that moment, I wasn't just Elena Martinez, the college swimmer chasing a dream. I was a girl on the edge of something forbidden, something that could drown me or set me free. It was my senior year at Stanford, and the aquatic center had become my second home. The chlorine-scented air, the rhythmic splash of strokes, the burn in my muscles after a grueling practice heat was all I knew. I was 22, driven and laser-focused on earning a spot on the U.S. Olympic team. Failure wasn't an option. My parents, immigrants who'd sacrificed everything, had drilled that into me since I was a kid. But Riley Thompson, my coach, was unraveling everything I thought I understood about myself. Riley was 30, with a reputation as the toughest coach in the division. Her short blonde hair was always slightly tousled, as if she'd just run her fingers through it, and her blue eyes could cut through you like a blade or soften into pools of warmth. She'd been a competitive swimmer herself, almost making the Olympics before an injury ended her career. Now she poured her passion into us, her athletes, but I always felt her gaze linger on me a little longer. At first, I thought it was because of my potential. She clocked my freestyle at 1:48, one of the best in the region. But lately her attention felt different. Personal. Dangerous. That evening practice had run late. The rest of the team had already hit the showers, leaving the pool deck eerily empty. I was still in the water perfecting my turn when Riley called me over. "Elena, stay back. We need to talk about your form." Her voice was firm but carried a softness that made my stomach flip. I climbed out, water streaming off my navy swimsuit, and stood before her, trying to ignore the way her eyes traced my frame. "Your turns are sloppy," she said, stepping closer, her clipboard forgotten on the bench. "You're losing half a second every lap. You want the Olympics? You can't afford that." Her words were sharp, but her tone was almost tender, like she was pleading with me to understand something deeper. I nodded, my throat tight, unable to look away from her. She was so close now, the heat of her body cutting through the chill of my wet skin. "Show me," she said, gesturing to the pool. "One more lap. I'll watch." I dove in, my muscles screaming but my mind singularly focused on impressing her. I pushed through the water, every stroke deliberate, every turn sharp. When I surfaced, gasping, she was crouched at the edge, her face unreadable. "Better," she said, but her voice was low, almost a whisper. "Come here." I climbed out again, my legs shaky not from exhaustion, but from the intensity of her gaze. She stood, closing the distance between us, and I swear the air crackled. "Elena," she said, her voice dropping to a hush. "You're holding back. Not in the pool. In here." She tapped her chest, right over her heart, and I froze. My pulse roared in my ears. Was she saying what I thought she was? "Coach," I started, but my words caught as her hand brushed my arm, light as a feather but electric. "Riley," she corrected, her eyes searching mine. "Call me Riley when it's just us." My breath hitched. This was a line we weren't supposed to cross. She was my coach, my mentor, the one person who believed I could be more than just another swimmer. But the way she looked at me now, like I was the only thing in the world that mattered, made me want to leap over that line and never look back. The pool deck was a world of its own, bathed in the fading light of a California sunset. I'd grown up in a conservative family, where feelings like these were whispered about in shame, if at all. I'd spent years shoving down the part of me that noticed girls, really noticed them because I was terrified of what it meant. But Riley was different. She was strength and softness, discipline and desire, and standing there, I realized I'd been falling for her for months. "Riley," I said, testing her name, my voice trembling. Her lips curved into a small, knowing smile, and she stepped even closer, her hand lingering on my arm. "You're not alone in this," she whispered, and my world tilted. I wanted to ask what she meant, to demand clarity, but before I could, she leaned in, her forehead nearly touching mine. "Meet me here tomorrow after practice," she said. "We need to figure this out." She pulled back, leaving me breathless, and walked away, her silhouette disappearing into the locker room. I stood there, the pool's reflection shimmering around me, my heart a tangled mess of fear, hope, and something I was too scared to name. What had just happened? And what was I about to dive into? The next day I could barely focus. My classes dragged on, each lecture a blur as my mind replayed Riley's words. You're not alone in this. By the time practice rolled around, my nerves were a live wire. The pool was chaos, splashing, shouting, the usual energy of a dozen swimmers, but all I saw was Riley, clipboard in hand, her eyes catching mine across the deck. Practice was brutal. Riley pushed us harder than usual, her commands sharp, her whistle piercing. But every time she corrected my stroke or adjusted my stance, her touch lingered a fraction too long. My teammates didn't notice, but I did. Each brush of her fingers sent a jolt through me, and I swam faster, harder, as if I could outrun the confusion in my heart. When practice ended, I lingered, pretending to stretch as the others filed out. Riley was at the far end of the pool, organizing equipment, but her eyes flicked to me every few seconds. My stomach churned with anticipation and dread. What was I doing? This wasn't just about swimming anymore. This was about crossing a line that could cost me everything, me focus, my future, maybe even my place on the team. Finally, the aquatic center emptied, and it was just us again. The sunset painted the water gold, and Riley walked over, her steps deliberate. You stayed, she said, her voice softer now, almost vulnerable. I nodded, unable to trust my voice. She set her clipboard down and sat on the edge of a diving board, motioning for me to join her. I did, my wet swimsuit clinging to me, my heart pounding so loud I was sure she could hear it. Elena, she began, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. I've been trying to ignore this for months. The way I feel when I'm around you. It's not professional. I know that. But I can't pretend it's not there. Her words hit me like a wave, pulling me under. I'd spent so long burying my own feelings, convincing myself they were wrong, that hearing her say this felt like a lifeline. I don't know what I'm doing, I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. I've never let myself feel this way. Not really. Growing up, I'd heard my parents' hushed conversations about those people, their disapproval thick in the air. I dated guys in high school trying to fit the mold, but it never felt right. With Riley, everything felt right and terrifying. She reached for my hand, her fingers warm against my cold skin. I know it's scary, she said. I've been there. I didn't come out until I was 25 after years of fighting it. But you don't have to go through this alone. Her thumb traced circles on my palm, and I felt like I was drowning in the best way possible. But you're my coach, I said, the words spilling out. What happens if someone finds out? What happens to my scholarship, my spot on the team? My voice cracked and I hated how small I sounded. Riley's face softened, but there was a flicker of pain in her eyes. I've thought about that, she said quietly. I could lose my job. You could lose your place here. But I can't keep pretending I don't care about you, Elena. Not when I see how hard you fight. Not just in the pool, but with yourself. She paused, her gaze steady. I'm not asking you to decide anything now. I needed you to know. The weight of her words settled over me, heavy and exhilarating. I wanted to lean into her, to close the distance between us, but fear held me back. What if this was a mistake? What if I wasn't ready to face the world as someone new? But as I looked into her eyes, I saw something I'd never seen before. Acceptance. Not just of me, but of the parts of me I'd been too afraid to acknowledge. I need time, I said finally, my voice trembling. This is a lot. Riley nodded, her hand squeezing mine before letting go. Take all the time you need, she said. I'll be here. She stood, offering me a small smile, and walked away, leaving me alone with the pool and my racing thoughts. That night I lay in my dorm staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment. Riley's touch, her words, the way her eyes held mine. I was falling for her and it terrified me. But for the first time, I let myself imagine what it would be like to stop running from who I was. The weeks that followed were a blur of practice, classes, and stolen glances. Riley and I didn't talk about that night again, but the air between us had changed. Every correction she gave me, every nod of approval, felt charged with something unspoken. I was swimming better than ever, my times dropping with every meet, but my heart was a battlefield. I wanted her, but I was terrified of what it meant to want her. My best friend, Maya, noticed something was off. We were grabbing coffee at a campus cafe when she leaned across the table, her dark eyes narrowing. Elena, you're acting weird. like distracted weird. What's going on? I froze my latte halfway to my lips. Maya was the one person I could tell anything to, but this felt too big, too raw. It's nothing, I lied, but my voice betrayed me. Maya raised an eyebrow, unconvinced. Is it Coach Riley? She asked, and my heart stopped. I've seen the way you look at her. And the way she looks at you. Her tone wasn't judgmental, just curious, but I felt exposed, like the world could see my secret. I don't know what you're talking about, I said, but my cheeks burned. Maya reached for my hand, her expression softening. Elena, it's okay. You don't have to hide with me. If you like her, that's you. And it's beautiful. Her words hit me hard, cracking the walls I'd built around myself. I didn't tell her everything, but I admitted enough. I liked Riley, more than liked her, and it was tearing me apart. That night, I went to the pool alone, needing the water to clear my head. The aquatic center was closed, but I had a key, perks of being team captain. I dove in, letting the cold water shock my system, and swam until my lungs burned. When I surfaced, I wasn't alone. Riley stood at the edge, her silhouette outlined by the dim lights. You shouldn't be here, she said, but there was no reprimand in her voice. I climbed out, dripping, and faced her. Neither should you, I shot back, emboldened by the quiet of the night. She smiled a sad, beautiful smile and stepped closer. I can't stop thinking about you, she said, her voice raw. It's wrong, I know. I'm your coach. But every time I see you, she stopped, running a hand through her hair. I don't know how to do this. Her vulnerability disarmed me, and before I could think, I closed the distance between us, my hand finding hers. Then don't, I whispered. Don't think. Just be here. Her eyes widened, and for a moment we just stood there, hands clasped, the world falling away. Then she leaned in, and I met her halfway. Our lips touched, soft and tentative at first, then desperate, like we'd both been holding our breath for too long. The kiss was everything: fire, fear, freedom. I felt alive in a way I never had before. But the sound of a door slamming in the distance snapped us apart. Panic surged through me. What if someone had seen? Riley's face mirrored my fear, but she squeezed my hand. It's okay, she said, though her voice shook. No one's here. But the moment was gone, replaced by the cold reality of what we'd just done. We can't do this, I said, stepping back, my heart breaking as I said it. Not like this. Not here. Riley nodded, her jaw tight. I know, she said. But I don't regret it. She turned and left, and I sank to the pool deck, my head in my hands, torn between the thrill of her kiss and the fear of what came next. The kiss changed everything. I couldn't look at Riley without feeling her lips on mine, couldn't swim without remembering the heat of her touch. But with every practice, the weight of our secret grew heavier. I was drowning in it, caught between wanting her and fearing the consequences. My times were still improving, but my focus was slipping, and my teammates started to notice. Elena, what's with you? Sarah, our team's butterfly specialist, asked one day in the locker room. You're like in another world. I mumbled something about stress and bolted, but the truth was eating me alive. I was falling in love with Riley, and it was dangerous. Not just because she was my coach, but because I was still learning to accept this part of myself. I started avoiding Riley outside of practice, keeping my head down, focusing on my strokes. But she wasn't letting me run. One evening, after a meet where I'd shaved another 1/10 of a second off my freestyle, she pulled me aside. We need to talk, she said, her voice firm but gentle. I followed her to her office, a small room overlooking the pool, my heart pounding. Elena, you're pulling away, she said, closing the door. I get it. I do. But you can't keep pretending this isn't happening. Her eyes were pleading, and it broke me. I wanted to tell her I was scared, that I didn't know how to be this version of myself, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, I kissed her. It was reckless, stupid, but I couldn't stop myself. She kissed me back, her hands cupping my face, and for a moment, everything was perfect. But then she pulled away, her expression torn. We can't keep doing this in secret, she said. It's not fair to either of us. Then what do we do? I asked, my voice breaking. I can't lose you, but I can't lose everything I've worked for either. Riley sighed, running a hand through her hair. I don't know, she admitted. But I know I love you, Elena. And I'm not going to let you go through this alone. Her words hit me like a tidal wave. Love. She'd said it. And as I looked into her eyes, I knew I felt the same. But love wasn't enough, not when the world was watching, not when my family would never understand, not when our careers were on the line. That night, I went to Maya for advice. She listened as I poured out everything, the kiss, the fear, the love. You deserve to be happy, she said simply. But you have to decide what that looks like. If you love her, fight for it. But you need to be honest with yourself first. Her words echoed in my mind as I walked back to my dorm, the California night cool against my skin. I was tired of hiding, tired of running. But was I brave enough to fight? The regional championships were a week away, and the pressure was crushing. I was swimming for a chance at the Olympic trials, but my heart was elsewhere. Riley and I had reached a fragile truce, stealing moments when we could a touch here, a look there, but we both knew it couldn't last. Something had to give. The night before the meet, I found her at the pool, alone, staring at the water. Riley, I said, my voice soft. She turned, her eyes tired but warm. You should be resting, she said, but I shook my head. I need to tell you something. My heart was racing, but I was done hiding. I love you, I said, the words spilling out. And I'm scared, but I don't want to lose this. I don't want to lose us. Tears pricked my eyes, but I kept going. I don't know how to do this, how to be out, how to face my family, how to keep swimming. But I want to try. With you. Riley's face softened, and she pulled me into her arms, holding me tight. I love you too, she whispered. And we'll figure it out. Together. For the first time, I believed her. We stood there, wrapped in each other, the pool a silent witness to our promise. The next day, I swam like I'd never swum before. Every stroke was for me, for Riley, for the version of myself I was finally embracing. I won gold in the freestyle, my time qualifying me for the Olympic trials. The crowd roared, but all I saw was Riley, her smile brighter than the stadium lights. After the meet, we made a plan. Riley would talk to the athletic director, disclose our relationship, and accept whatever consequences came. I would tell my parents, knowing it might break their hearts but hoping they'd come around. It wouldn't be easy, but it was worth it. Love was worth it. Months later, at the Olympic trials, I stood on the starting block, Riley in the stands, no longer my coach but my partner. I didn't make the team, but I swam my heart out, and that was enough. I'd found something greater than a medal, myself. And with Riley by my side, I knew I could face anything. As we walked away from the pool that day, hand in hand, I realized the water had always been my sanctuary, but Riley was my home. Together, we'd dive into whatever came next, fearless and free. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe to get notifications about next videos.